Hello, 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 and welcome. This is Her Talk Show. My name is Serena Victoria, and I am here with Serena. We are going to be talking all about resilience today, which is by far one of my favorite subjects to talk about. So get comfortable as we explore the triumphs and the challenges faced by women worldwide, offering insights and inspiration to fuel you personally and professionally. Let's jump in.
Get ready, because today's guest is about to change the way you view your world. This is Her Talk Show, hosted by Serena Victoria.
If you're listening live, welcome. And if you're listening on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay wherever you're at so we can send you some love in the comments. Listen, we're here every day. We delve deep into the realms of health, wealth, and leadership with some of the most brilliant women globally. We've interviewed over 600 women, and today we are adding another one to the list. We have Serena, who has overcome extreme obstacles personally and professionally, starting her life in witness protection and foster homes, leading to teenage addiction and homelessness. After climbing the corporate ladder in leadership roles for almost 20 years, she founded Pulse Marketing in 2013, facing the challenges of an entrepreneurship and a toxic marriage that left her with the devastation of her husband's suicide. Yet despite these challenges, she found a real sense of purpose along the way, recently writing a memoir, I love that, about her life experiences. She has dedicated her life to empowering others, both personally and professionally. Welcome, lady.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here and honored. So thank you for having me.
Yes, 100%. It sounds so interesting, but I just love when I meet a woman who's like on her journey of healing and she's using her story to inspire others. We were talking right before we jumped on here, and I just love how you were saying, like, I knew that my story needed to be shared. I knew that it was meant to inspire people, but like, I was like scared. I was scared.
Terrified.
And you just started doing it. You just started doing it, and you are impacting individuals all over the world by sharing your story. So I thank you so much for being here, stepping into fear, and really grabbing that courage, grabbing that confidence that so many of us seek, but are a little fearful to grab.
Thank you. I think when I was writing my memoir, I intended to finish writing it and put it under my bed and never share it with anyone. And during the process, I recognized very clearly that my pattern was to hide. I hid in the closet as a 5-year-old little girl when I was being sexually abused by my biological father. I hid, when I lived on the streets, I would hide in abandoned houses to try and get away from, dangerous situations. And then in my marriage, I found myself, in my 30s back hiding in the closet because I didn't want to tell anyone about some of the things that were happening in my marriage.
Yeah.
And when I recognized that pattern of hiding, I knew the only way to overcome it was to face it. And so the book that I wrote is called Exposed, and you can't heal when you hide. So,
Girl, that is a powerful title.
that is definitely, it is me exposing all of my truth, all of my mistakes in detail. And so it's kind of this powerful moment when you decide, I'm going to expose myself, because that takes the power away from other people exposing you,
Yeah.
or creating their own narrative.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the things that I so lean into is if you just show up authentically. Do you remember 8 Mile with Eminem?
Yes.
Yes, that part where they're rapping and he just says all this shit about himself. And
Yes.
like he has nothing to say because he just totally dissed his own.
Yeah, he totally put his whole life on display and was like, well, you can't use it against me because I've already put it out there.
Yeah.
And that is very much the same mindset that I had when I was writing the book, which is why I wanted to hide it under my bed. I mean, there are some really, grim details in the book that most people would never publish.
Yeah.
And I had to do it because I knew that that was my fear.
Yeah. That is fantastic. How are you wanting the book to impact others?
I think because it's so raw and it brings out so much truth, I want it to empower others to find their own courage, to find their own voice, and to not keep those secrets locked inside, but to find a safe way to get out of a really toxic situation. Um, and I'm hoping that my book will inspire them to do so. Um, I was married for 10 years, and my husband, he was charismatic and amazing, just had this personality that could light up a room. I mean, everyone that met him fell in love with him. And he just drew in this almost like infectious kind of personality. And so through our marriage, when I met him, I was immediately head over heels, of course. And the first time that I realized that there was something beyond and outside of my control was 2 weeks out after our honeymoon. So we were together for 2 years prior to getting married.
Okay.
And 2 weeks after our honeymoon, I had gone back to my position. I was a VP of marketing at the time. It was prior to starting the agency. And I was just working, trying to catch up on the projects that I had missed prior to leaving. And so I was in an executive suite. And in the executive suite, there's typically not a reception area. And all the executives were out for lunch at this point. And a woman had come into the office, and I thought that maybe she was lost, and I was going to redirect her to where the reception area was. And she said my name. And in that moment, my heart dropped. She came into my office and closed the door behind her, sat in front of my desk, and she described her relationship with my husband for the past 2 years and sent me over 300 messages, videos, photos between her and my husband. And this was 2 weeks after we were married. And I remember the devastation and the heart-wrenching emotion that you go through in that moment. But I almost felt like it was an out-of-body experience. Like it wasn't my life. It was almost like she was coming to me with her story. And so I became very drawn in and empathetic, and I was trying to understand and relate to her. I just completely separated myself from the situation.
Wow.
And when I confronted my husband, it was almost like he fell to the floor and started screaming.
Screaming or screaming crying?
Both. I mean, it was at the top of his lungs, just in this outpour, almost as if he, just completely lost it. And I was, in this point, we had just gotten married. So I just come out of this fairy tale. He was this amazing person that I'd fallen in love with. He played guitar. He would sing to me. I mean, everything you could imagine in the perfect man. He fell in love with my children. He was an amazing father, all of those things. And to see him in this outpour of fear and panic and tears and anger, it validated that what she had told me was true. And during that period, that was the first time I had ever experienced some of his mental health issues and his capabilities of really taking this situation, and he became very suicidal. So
Wow.
instead of going from my perspective, which is what's happening, and kind of taking it in and healing and trying to work through that, I went deep into protection mode. I have to protect him from hurting himself. We have to work through this in order to become stronger. It's only been 2 weeks since we've been married. There was shame, embarrassment, guilt. I can't tell anyone
Wow.
because I literally just got back from our honeymoon. And the first time we went through intensive counseling, workshops, everything you could imagine, and healed. And it was a beautiful healing process. And at that point was when I left the company that I was working for and I started the agency. And he came to work in the agency. He said that if he's going to sell anything, that he's going to sell something he believes in. And we were the power couple. We grew the agency to over $1 million, and just starting out with zero. I mean, in our loft. So our staff would literally come to our house and work in our house. Like it was, and from there we grew to this incredible agency with 15 employees, and we were growing and we were thriving. And then that's when I found out about the second woman. And so about 3 years after the first woman, I found out about the second woman, and I just can't even describe to you the depths of pain when you overcome something like that and you heal and you forgive and you overcome,
Yeah.
and then you experience it again. It just it's like almost like a domino effect. It undoes everything that that you ever did towards that moment.
Wow.
But at this point now, it wouldn't only impact our kids and our family, but it would impact our business. And so I chose not to tell anyone. And
Wait,
because
how did you find out? Did she come to you again?
no, it was an accident. I overtrust, right? That was my problem. We were at a trade show in Las Vegas for the agency, and we had taken part of the day to relax and go lay by the pool before going back to the trade show. And he was in the pool, and his phone went off and it made a weird noise. And so I picked it up to go hand it to him. And when I looked down, it said, "I thought you were leaving her. I thought we were going to be together forever. Why are you doing this to me?" And I promise you, I think I blacked out in that moment. I just lost it. I couldn't even, some of the things I did in that moment was, I couldn't even re-describe. Like I just blacked out because it was such a big moment after all these years healing and after building this agency together, after growing our families, all of that. And then it just felt like everything was destroyed in just, one message. And that night he left me alone at the hotel room, and he went out drinking and driving, and he sent me photos of cutting himself, of himself bleeding, saying that if I left him, that he wouldn't have any reason to live. And so you go through this emotion of trying to heal yourself, but also trying to protect everyone around you.
Wow. Yeah.
And this is all while I'm trying to run a business and raise a family. I hid. I didn't tell anyone. I started meeting with a counselor. We both started meeting with a counselor privately, but I did not want this. I could lose everything, everything I'd worked so hard for, my house, my business. Like as a woman in business, that when you're married, that half of everything goes to your spouse, no matter what. And all I thought was, I'd worked so hard to get this far.
Totally.
I didn't want to throw it all away. And so I had made a choice to try and work through it again and trying to forgive and try and move on, until the third woman. So this is now several years past, and it's about 5 years after. And it was an accident again. We were having a lot of problems in our marriage because we never fully healed from the second woman. And he had decided to go on, a trip with the boys. And during that process, I had to make a decision, like, is this going to get better, or is this not going to get better? We were in a really tough financial position with the business, and he still chose to leave. So I decided I was going to go on his laptop and start transferring all of the sales files onto the drive for our company. And his messenger started popping up, and there was all these photos between him and another woman. And that was when I knew I had to find the courage to not only leave, but also to make the decision to tell my family and my staff, because he worked in the business.
Yeah.
So I started packing up. I told my staff that night, and I said, I didn't say what had happened. I just said, we're going through a divorce. I just want you guys to know that this was about October of 2019. I said, I just want you to know that we're going to be stronger in 2020. It's going to be a good year, and we're going to put these things behind us, and we're going to move on. And I opened a bottle of champagne, made it like a very but remember, I'm still hiding, right? Because I'm trying to hide what he did. I'm just trying to move forward with my team and make sure that we can start fresh. And right after I did that, they started bantering. And I said, guys, we have a no tolerance policy for gossip. So let's try and look at the future and be optimistic. And one of my employees said, they're not gossiping. And I said, what? That he had also been with one of our recently former employees. And it's heart-wrenching enough to find out about these other women, but then to find out that it was an employee.
Wow.
Right on my shoulder that was there in my office that I was paying to be there.
Yeah.
Just broke me. And I went through a lot of pain because I had to now deal with and uncover all the pain that I had suppressed or tried to heal or pretended to heal for so long. And that was October of 2019. By March of 2020, he committed suicide.
Wow.
So right during the pandemic, right in the middle of it all, now I was faced with this. I had to tell his family because no one would have known what was underneath all of this. Everyone thought we were the perfect power couple.
Yep.
And that was the moment that I stopped hiding.
Wow. Good for you. How does that feel?
It feels weightless. It's the when you're in chaos and you're in a toxic relationship, and when I am a master codependent, so I'm really good at taking care of everyone else and not myself. But when you let go of all that and you finally prioritize yourself, you just start to take off these layers of, weight that you've been carrying for so long. And it's just a beautiful feeling.
I want to ask, as far as the steps, talking to you now, right, is probably a little bit different.
Yeah.
Back then. And some people never get to the point where you're at, or it's been years and they have not gotten to it.
Yes.
What were some of the things that you have done that you acknowledge helped you reframe out of whatever the feelings were, which I'm sure it was so many different low vibration feelings, into the mindset that you have now? What were some of the actionable steps that you took so that someone listening can maybe see a glimmer of hope for themselves?
So I have so many steps, but I will share some of the things that were huge moments for me. So before making the decision to leave him, before even finding out about the third woman, I was meeting with a counselor, and I was saying to him, I said, I am an amazing wife. I am an amazing mother. I have a business. I'm supportive. I'm forgiving. I'm good in bed. Like, I'm all these things. Like, I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. And he said to me, he said, Serena, you may be all of those things, but you can't earn love. It has to be freely given. And in that moment, it was just like a blindfold came off. Like, that my entire life, I thought that I can earn approval, that I can earn love, that I can earn all of these things by showing someone how much I could do, or how great I was, or, whatever it was. And just the idea that you can't earn it, that shifted my entire mindset. So that was a part of it. The other big piece is I struggled with boundaries. I would create boundaries. I was amazing at having a checklist of boundaries, but I didn't understand how to create a consequence for when those boundaries were broken. And so the boundaries kept getting broken. And so what I did is I created an acronym. Don't judge me. I had to remember it. So my acronym for my boundaries is BRAVE. B stands for setting those boundaries. R stands for reliability. You're going to do what you say you're going to do. A stands for accountability. You're going to own your part. V stands for vulnerability. If I can be authentic and open with you, then I expect the same in return. E stands for equal effort. So if you're not investing equal effort into me, then that is my sign that it's not the right fit for a relationship, for a friendship, or whatever it is. And so BRAVE is my reminder to set boundaries and to follow through if there is not any type of reciprocity with my boundaries, then I need to step away from that scenario. And so that was one of the things. And then I think for women that are in it, because a lot of women
Totally
are in it right now.
Yeah.
I have another acronym for them. And it's prepare. When you're in it, you feel stuck. You don't feel like you can tell anyone. You feel like you're alone and isolated. And so the first part of prepare is plan. Plan the next steps. Like, figure out, okay, if I need to get out of this, what do I need to do now to prepare to get out? So plan the next steps. R, resources. Identify who your resources are, who you need in your life, what you need to do, and get those resources in one place. E is for create an exit strategy. So it's not as easy as just saying I'm leaving, especially if it involves your business and your personal life.
Totally.
You have to create an exit strategy and then follow through with it. P is for making preparations. You have to start preparing. Okay, I have my exit strategy. What's the next step? What's the first step? A is for take action. And that's a huge one because we have a tendency not only to isolate, but to freeze in our fear. And so taking action and following through with the plan is a huge part of that. And then R, you have to release responsibility. You are no longer responsible for protecting that other person's integrity, actions, whatever they have done.
Yep.
You need to release responsibility. And then E is for evacuate, get out. And you have to close off that relationship. I don't care if they send you 300 text messages, you have to file those and don't read any of them, because the evacuation process is you setting yourself free from being in your own bondage.
Yeah.
That is what you got yourself into. You feel guilty about it. You have to evacuate and just create that barrier around yourself to provide safety.
Yeah. I like that you're saying that towards the end here, as far as no longer reading the texts, because that is a huge scenario as to why people end up back, because they use all sorts of games and manipulations and
And
trickery.
gaslighting and all kind. You're the one that is crazy. You caused this.
Yeah. Or just re-saying stuff that they've already said for years and years and years, and then being like, acting like they never said it or they never did it, or like you're crazy. I want to talk a little bit about something that I went through when I left my abusive ex. And I'm kind of wondering what your take is on it, or if you felt this. I did this, exactly what you're saying, right? Made a plan, had the resources, created an exit strategy, prepared, action, all the things. It was hard for me to get to the point of creating the action plan or the plan because I felt unloyal, which made no sense because they were so disrespectful and so unloyal. So I'm wondering what your feelings were. You just like gung ho, this is it? Or were there reservations of like, I'm being bad, I'm not being a good wife, I'm being unloyal, I'm being distrustful, dishonest?
Okay, so think about it in the terms of who do you need to be loyal to? And I needed to be loyal to myself. I needed to be loyal to my kids. And who was I being by hiding all of those things?
Wow. Yeah.
I was not being the person that, number one, that I was proud of, but I was feeding the shame and the victim cycle by allowing myself to continue in that cycle and by protecting everyone else and not myself.
So good. And the other thing that came up when you said that is your children, being loyal to your children.
Yeah. So you do feel that way when you're creating this plan and this exit strategy. But you have to remember that it is not, you're not doing this to them. You're doing this for you. And in order to be the best version, the healthiest version, the most authentic version of yourself, you cannot keep hiding and pretending that everything is okay. I did that for way too long. And the harsh reality is that everyone sees right through it. Like for my staff to know that he was with one of my other employees and for me not to know was humiliating.
Yeah.
because I thought I did really good at hiding it. That I did really good at pretending everything was great and I was strong for them. And to be honest, the moment that I let all that guard down, my staff rose up and
Mm.
ran the agency, became leaders in the agency, and lifted me up and carried me through this mess, because the aftermath was just as devastating as living through it. There was 13 women that I found, not just the 3.
Wow.
There was, I would say, almost 400,000 in debt through the business that I just couldn't wrap my arms around, that now that I was responsible for. It was just so many things. And I wouldn't have been able to do that without my staff rising up. And they wouldn't have even had an opportunity to rise up if I pretended
Wow.
that I had it all together when I didn't.
I love that. And what a testament to the importance of community.
Yes, you have to surround yourself with people who inspire you, who empower you, who pour love into you, because without it, you are alone.
Yeah.
But you can't get those things when you're hiding because nobody can hear you. You're keeping it locked inside, and all it does is rot and decay, and it breaks you down emotionally and physically. And you have to break through that. And you can't do that without facing your fear. But you also can't do that without preparing yourself to take that step.
Yeah. Absolutely. Wow. So, so powerful. I want to ask one more question as we're wrapping up here. What's really coming to me, putting myself in the shoes of all of the individuals listening live right now. Hello, I see you. And on the replay, is the word judgment. So often we don't feel capable of doing what you're telling us to do because of the judgment from family, from
Mhm.
friends, from colleagues. And I know you're already kind of touching on this, but I mean, how do we do that? How do we set aside the judgment and just step into it?
So you will continue to judge yourself when you're circling through toxic friendships, toxic relationships, because that's what you're conditioned to do. Is they portray these things about you, or they show these things in these toxic relationships that you shame and blame yourself. And that's where that judgment comes in first. So the first place of judgment is your self-judgment. The second place of judgment is from others. You have to forgive yourself for all the judgment that you're placing on yourself before you could even find the courage to face the judgment of others. And so one of the things that I learned in my healing process was, would I treat myself the same way if I was a 5-year-old little girl?
Mm.
And so I had to look in the mirror and say the things that I did wrong and talk about the things that I allowed to happen. Would I shame and blame and judge a 5-year-old version of me? Never. Your heart would be torn into pieces. You'd never do that to a child.
Yeah.
But that's what we do to ourselves. And so acknowledging the things that you have not forgiven yourself for, and fully letting go of all of that self-destructive talk and behavior is part of the first step of facing the judgment of others. Because once you fully accept yourself, it's a lot easier to face judgment of others because it no longer hurts.
Hmm.
Your judgment of yourself is really the narrative that's driving that fear of the judgment of others. It doesn't mean it won't hurt. It will. But it just means you'll be stronger in facing it because you've already accepted who you are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for all of that. Beautiful. As we are wrapping up, I would love for you to share a little bit more about, what you do, your book, how people can reach you, who should be reaching out to you.
So I would be honored to send a signed copy of my book to anyone who wants it. They can order it through serenamastin.com. Or if they just kind of want to secretly purchase it, they can go through Amazon. It's there. And honestly, my goal in being here is not really to promote me. It's to inspire others to find their voice.
Mm.
So anything that I can do to support that process, I'm here.
Beautiful. I love that so much. Where do you hang out on social?
Oh, they can find me through Serena Mastin, or they can find me at the other one is Pulse Marketing is my agency. So you can find me on either one of those places.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate it. For those listening live, for those of you listening on the replay, her website, serenamastin.com, is in a clickable link in the description wherever you are watching or listening to us right now. So make sure you find that and dive into everything, Serena. Any closing thoughts, lady, as we wrap up?
So I would say most people believe that success is standing on top of the mountain and telling everyone, how far you've come and what you've done and all those things. But I want to bring light to the fact that the blood and the sweat and the tears that you endure climbing that mountain, that's where the true journey lies. That's where the true version of success lies, because that's when you're building the strength and endurance that you need to get to that top. It's not being at the top, it's being in it. And I just remind all the women out there that if you're in it, just know that this is a beautiful moment. It's temporary and you're going to get through it. And you will be at the top of the mountain, but the journey lies in the path. It's not at the top. So embrace it.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm still in my path. I'm not at the top, guys, just so we're all on the same page.
I love that. I say that too. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing half the time.
No, I'm just glad I'm climbing. I'm still alive.
Yeah, we're still in the game, girl. We're still in the
I have
game.
no idea how I'm here, but few scratches and broken body parts, but I'm here.
I love it. I love it. Well, this has been absolutely wonderful. I so appreciate you taking some time out of your day to share just some amazing stories and some really, really good insight on reframing for so many of us. So many of us are in situations like that or just coming out of situations like that. And quite honestly, it's rough. It gets bumpy. So appreciate your insight. That brings us to an end of yet another incredible episode of Her Talk Show. I want to thank Serena for being here, sharing her wisdom, inspiring us. To our dedicated listeners who are still with us and those on the replay, thank you for staying with us until the very end. Remember to follow, like, and share. Once again, I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I invite you to join our amazing community, Her Nation, where we continue to uplift each other every step of the way. Until next time, do something